Hey everybody, welcome back to the NerdNest podcast. I am Bill and today I am joined by Carrie and Russ. Carrie, what videos? I know that you haven't been making a whole lot of videos because you've been otherwise occupied for reasons we will talk about later, but what videos have you put out this week or are on the way sometime soon?
I actually just pushed one out earlier, an hour ago, and this is updating the SSD on the ROG Ally, but using Asus's Cloud Recovery to just make it super simple and just to show people how easy it is. It was a really simple video to make where I just pressed the button and then just kind of just told people to let it do its thing.
That's awesome because like I see a lot of people often saying, "Hey, when the ROG Ally comes in, I want to install SteamOS 3 point whatever on there, probably 3.5 by the time. Well, maybe we'll see. Um, I want to install that on there." But for me, I'm always thinking about, okay, well, what happens if I decide that I made a huge mistake? So it's pretty easy to get back, just back to
Yeah,
back to defaults.
sensational easy.
Sensationally easy. That's awesome to hear. Russ, you
Hello.
have a little celebration that you got to tell everybody about. This is awesome, man. I just saw your tweet. What happened?
Yeah. So I hit 325,000 subscribers, which is just a crazy number to me. Like I remember when I first started like my YouTube channel and like when I was getting close to like 100,000, which already was crazy. I remember thinking if I hit 250, I am set for life. Like that's what I thought. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll like retire, buy a Jaguar or whatever, but I just that's not the reality of it. But all the same, it is amazing to just keep going. Like everything after 100 is just icing on the cake. And so it's just been cool. And I was telling Bill before we started that my therapist told me that I need to celebrate more. And so I'm like, fine, I'll because I always move on to the next thing, but I'm like, okay, let's celebrate this one here. And so, yeah, 325 is pretty awesome.
All right.
Congrats,
Good luck
dude.
to Russ for finding
Thanks.
325,000 candles to blow out on a cake. You got any videos you're going to be putting out soon or that came out this week?
Yeah, just this morning I posted a video, an impressions video, the AYN Loki. So if they finally have released their Windows handheld, I mean, this thing's been in pre-order since June and so of last year, and so it's kind of amazing that they finally shipped one. And I got to say, it actually meets all the expectations. It's just way too late at this point. That's the biggest problem here. But otherwise, yeah, it was pretty awesome. And I was almost late here actually dialing in because I was watching Carrie's video about the SSD upgrade. So.
Nice. So that's two videos that I got to watch later on today because I haven't had a chance. I put out a couple of videos. I put out one video that showed people how they can use Steam input to mimic Smash Brothers right stick inputs in Street Fighter 6. And I have to say, like, it's really, really cool. But if you are scared away from Street Fighter 6 because of the inputs and you don't have a Steam Deck, like maybe you have you're going to play it on the ROG Ally or you just want to play it on a regular controller, the default controls, not the traditional controls, because I have no interest in that, but the default modern controls of Street Fighter 6 are fantastic. They're really, really good. But if you follow my guide, it makes it just a little bit better, especially for people who really like Smash. And then I also put out a video on how to get Diablo 4 running on your Steam Deck, which Carrie was like, as soon as he came into the call today, he sits down because he's at a standing desk. He sits down. I could just see his beautiful hair sticking up at the bottom of the frame. And he's like, I'm going to play Diablo 4 while we wait. And I was like, go nuts, man. And then the servers are down. And he was so sad. A single tear eked out of the corner of his eye. And I felt really, really bad for him. But listen, we've got a lot to talk about today. I don't know if we're going to get to all of these stories, but MetaQuest surprises us with the MetaQuest 3. We've now maybe know what really happened with Redfall. Now, we've got footage of a new RoboCop game. Let's see what else is on here. Diablo 4 is going to be around for a while. But first, we're going to talk about the best year in gaming ever. Last week, we were doing the show. And Jasper in chat wants to know if you're going to do a 24-hour stream to celebrate there, Russ. Is that in the cards for you?
I need to start streaming in the first place, not 24 hours,
24
just an
hours.
hour here and there. Maybe, yeah. I got to play a game, but yeah, at some point I will, yeah.
All right, there you go. 24 hours is crazy, and nobody should do that. So last week we were talking about like just the absolute bangers of games that are coming out this year, and I said, "Is it like the best year ever?" And then Rich came up with, wish he could be here today. He's busy. Rich came up with this idea of what's the best year in gaming, and so I said, "All right, everybody, let's come up with what is the best year in gaming." We'll just kind of talk about it. So, Carrie, I'm going to have you start us off. Honestly, actually, before we start, chat, because we're doing this live over at the YouTube channel, I want you to guess, of the three of us, which of us has the year that is furthest back. Keep in mind that Russ is Retro Game Core as his name, okay? I just want you guys to make guesses in the chat so that we can see what people are going to predict, okay? All right, Carrie, we're going to start with you.
Yep.
Tell us about your perfect year or your favorite year in gaming.
Okay, so this is like I basically looked up a website to like kind of like distill all this information down. So I was just like trying to take a look at like some just very high level looks at years and some particular key titles that came out there. And I was like scrolling through and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. 2001, oh, that's a good year. You got Halo CE, you got Grand Theft Auto 3. That's a pretty solid year. And I kept on scrolling down, and then I saw Metal Gear Solid 1, Half-Life 1, Ocarina of Time, Fallout 2, Resident Evil 2, StarCraft, Siege Tribes, Tekken 3, and I was like, that is a baller year. What year is that? And that is 1998. That is, for me, without a doubt, the best year in gaming. Grim Fandango, Banjo-Kazooie, like the amount of PC and console games that were strong that year and pretty defining games of generations, right? Like, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1, like, put Metal Gear on the map for Metal Gear. Tekken 3 is probably still one of my favorite fighting games to this day. So yeah, for sure, 1998 is just the best year in gaming has ever seen.
So, it's funny because originally 1998 was the year that I picked. And then I ended up changing it because I have a poster, not a poster, it's a cloth map that my wife framed for me because she's awesome on my wall over there of Britannia from Ultima Online. And I was looking over at that and I was like, I got to include that game because my favorite genre of games is MMO. And so I was like, did that come out in 98? Please say it did. And it didn't. So I was like, all right, I'm deleting 1998. And if you guys, Russ and Carrie, if you guys go back and look at the document history, you'll see that I had typed 1998 in there originally. But it's a fantastic year. In fact, there's a podcast that I used to do called 143 Pixels. You can still listen to it. There's 50 episodes of it. And it was each episode I would bring on a guest and we would just talk about one of their favorite games of all time. And I'm looking at your list and I have there's an episode of that for Half-Life. There's an episode of that for Grim Fandango. There's an episode of Ocarina of Time. There's like a bunch of these games are all represented in 143 Pixels Pantheon. So I think you picked a really good year, Carrie. Russ, in Carrie's year of the 1998 crew, what's your favorite game on that list?
So I was just thinking to myself, I wasn't playing games in 98. I was a senior in high school, so I was more preoccupied with girls. But like I went back and played a lot of these games.
Wow.
And there's a whole gap for me. Like basically 96 to like 2001, like I didn't play games at all. But anyway, so in those 98 games, I went back and played in like 2001 when I actually like rebought a PlayStation 1 and started playing a lot of stuff. So yes, Metal Gear Solid 1, probably the defining one for me. I never actually finished Ocarina of Time, but the other ones, Metal Gear Solid definitely. Half-Life I didn't really play because I didn't have a PC at the time. But yeah, MGS was a big deal for me, especially just the storytelling aspect of that was just kind of amazing to me.
Yeah, so for me in this year or in this list, Zelda Ocarina of Time absolutely is the standout. I have a very, very specific memory of I had just gotten out of the Army and I brought my Nintendo 64 home with me and I went over to my brother's place, and his wife and one of her friends went to Toronto to go see Phantom of the Opera. And so I brought my N64 over to his house, and we had a couple of drinks and sat down, and we beat the game. And basically, if you never finish the end, like you have to like climb a tower, and so we're going through that tower mechanic, and we kept getting killed or whatever. And so we would play, and then pass the controller. Like if I get killed, I'd pass the controller over to him. And then when we finally finished the game, we beat the game, and we're sitting there and we're like, yeah, I can't believe that we did that. It was such a cool moment. And his wife walks in. They had just gotten back. It was like 3 a.m. or something. It was so late. And we're like celebrating. And like his wife and her friend walk in, and they're just like, you guys are such friggin' dorks. But hey, you know what? We really, really enjoyed that game. Carrie, what's your favorite on this list? Am I going to assume it's Metal Gear since you wrote that first?
No, Metal Gear Solid was huge for me. There's like points of Metal Gear Solid 1, like the fight with Psycho Mantis, and there's just so many, the beginning scene, the beginning cinematics, there's just so many parts of Metal Gear Solid 1. It starts off strong, and it just keeps on going, and like Revolver Ocelot, there's just so much of Metal Gear Solid 1 that's so good. But out of this list, I probably the one that, oh man, Half-Life. That was huge for me as well. The beginning intro for Half-Life was huge. But I probably would say that Ocarina of Time was my favorite. And I will kind of distill that down into a moment where you're saying like going to the tower at the end. The moment for me in Ocarina of Time is like 1/3 of the way through the game. You're still Kid Link, and you just get to the temple and you see the Master Sword. I literally did not run to it. I just pushed ever so slightly on the analog stick just so that I would walk to it. Like just,
I do that all the time.
There's nothing else going on. It's just that you're just walking to it. And I'm like, damn, this is
Savoring
epic. So yeah, that is like a core memory for me. And that game, like just the whole bit of it, just pulling the Master Sword out, going through time, going to be adult Link and all that other stuff. I even like I have rose-colored glasses for Ocarina of Time because I didn't even care about the owl at just like over talking. I have like very few memories of that being annoying to me, and as I'm older, that is far more annoying to me now. But
Your
yeah, I
time
would
is
say
more
that
valuable now, though.
I guess yeah, I suppose so. I guess that could be. I mean, I am pressed for time all the time now, so yeah, I guess that is true.
All right. Well, all right. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna have Russ go now. Russ, everybody, by the way, that made a prediction, they all said that you were going to be the one that went furthest back in time. It made me laugh so much when I looked at the show notes. Russ, what year is the best year in gaming?
Yeah, so let me preface this by I did think like 80s time frame and stuff like that, but I was a kid, and so years just blended together back then. And so maybe if we were talking about best console era or something, then maybe I would go back further, but I had to look at it just from my own personal perspective, right? And like I mentioned, there was a big gap for me from like mid 90s to early 2000s. There was another gap for me mid 2000s, basically. So I was in the Navy for a long time, and I deployed a lot during that time, like 15 deployments in like 4 or 5 years. And so because of that, like I just didn't have time. I played my DS a lot, and I had a PSP, but I didn't get to play any console games or computer games or anything else like that. But then my year is 2007. And that's because to me, that's just the banner year of console gaming. And so that's what actually got me back into playing games again. And I've been keeping up ever since. So that was the year I finally bought an Xbox 360. The Elite had come out that year. And also the Wii was like getting huge at that year too. So let me just list off the names of the games that came out in 2007 alone. So BioShock, Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, Halo 3, Portal, Uncharted, Assassin's Creed, Mass Effect, Crackdown, Guitar Hero 3, Rock Band 1, God of War 2. So they were still putting out games on the PS2. And then also, like the Wii was really taking hold that year, even though it did come out late 2006. But Wii Sports was the best-selling game in 2007, and that was attached to the console. And so you can imagine how many Wiis were sold if that's the best-selling game of the year. So anyway, so that's my pick, and it's very personal, but all the same, those are some massive franchises that all really took off in that year.
Yeah, I mean, you are absolutely not wrong about that. Especially, I have a really good memory with my wife because we ended up going and standing outside of a Best Buy at wintertime in order to get a Wii. So we stood out there in the cold because
Hmm.
I live in New York, so it's cold, right? And I'm standing out there, not New York City where the temperature of the ocean kind of regulates it. I live like on land, right? So it's really cold in the wintertime. And we spent the night outside Best Buy overnight with a bunch of other super dorks outside the Best Buy, and we were all just having an awesome time talking about that. We were really, really excited for the Wii, and it was just such a cool system. So, that's a really, really good pick. Carrie, what's your favorite game on Russ's list there that he put up there?
Oh, goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. That is a
Okay.
strong. 2007 is really the Xbox 360's strongest year. Like it is
Yep.
without a doubt. PS3 was nothing. It just came out. People are still ridiculing it. And that is such a banner year for the Xbox 360. Just like showing everything there. There is a lot there, man. There is a lot. All right. I'm a huge Halo fan. So I think I'm going to say Halo 3. Um, but Portal's on here. So then that means Orange Box also came
Yeah,
out.
the Orange Box was that year too. I just didn't break them all out. Yeah.
Orange Box by itself was probably the best value of of that year. That was
Yeah.
like Portal was fantastic. That is a really good year in gaming. I really enjoyed Halo 3 a bunch. I played campaign and a bunch of multiplayer. Uh, all right, I'm gonna say BioShock just because BioShock the whole thing of it that one caught me by surprise, and that one has like a really strong core memory for me. And Halo is more just I'm a fanboy, and BioShock was just like a new IP that shook me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm torn. Like I'm not torn between BioShock and Halo, but I'm torn between BioShock and Portal because I remember specifically Portal just absolutely blowing me away from minute one. Going through, and I had it on Xbox or on Orange Box on my Xbox 360 as well. Um, and that it's just like the snarky manner in which GLaDOS, pokes at you all the
Mm.
time, and then the moment with the cake where the cake is sitting there and then you're like, oh my god, like that moment was crazy. But at the same time, if you ask me any day of the week, what is your favorite moment in gaming ever, I always say it's that moment near the end of BioShock, and I won't spoil it because it's too important of a moment to get spoiled on. That moment where you open the door and you see it on the wall and you're just like, oh, it feels like the Sixth Sense. It feels like that what was that other M Night Shyamalan movie with Unbreakable? It feels like
Mm.
Unbreakable, like that moment when you realize everything is just such a intense moment. And I remember specifically sitting there, and my wife was sitting on the couch next to me, and she doesn't care about video games, but she was completely enwrapped in the story of what was happening in BioShock. So I think for me, it has to be BioShock on Russ's list.
Yeah,
Russ, what's your favorite on the list?
It's so hard to choose. I think that Orange Box would be way up there for me because, yeah, I hadn't played any of those games, so not even Half Life 2 at all. So I was able to play through that and the episodes. That was amazing. That's not my pick. Rock Band is. Like,
Okay.
that yeah,
because we played all the Guitar Hero games leading up
Hmm.
to it, and felt
yeah,
like Rock Band was just like that was it, like that was the culmination. And because it was like 4 player gameplay, we would have like parties and stuff. My wife is an incredible drummer, and so she would play the drums, I'd play the bass or guitar, and sometimes we would switch back and forth. But that was so fun. Like Wii Sports also was another one that really got us all together, families and stuff. But Rock Band was the one. Yeah, we played so much of that, and so I miss the fact that we don't really have a new generation kind of alternative to that other than like the homebrew version and all that. But yeah, that was an amazing era for me.
But do you miss the plastic crap in your house though? Because I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, those drums, the clacking sound of those drums was terrible. I kept my Les Paul from Guitar Hero 3. I still have that one, but yeah, I got rid of all the other stuff.
For those of you that guessed Russ, you were wrong. He was the most recent of all of us. Mine, however, is the oldest, which I guess makes sense because I am the oldest. 1997 is the year that I picked, and it was because of Ultima Online. My favorite genre of all time is MMOs. I remember very specifically a buddy at work. I was in the army. A buddy at work came in and he brought the box in with him. We couldn't bring anything else in with us because we were in a secure facility, but he brought the box in with him and he showed it to me and I was looking at it and I was like, this seems really cool. And he was telling me about it. And then he told me it was $9 a month or $10 a month or however much it was. And I said, you're out of your friggin' mind if you think I'm paying monthly to play a game. But I ended up going over to his house and checking it out after work. And then immediately I was like, okay, I got to go to whatever the big box store was at the time. I can't remember.
CompUSA probably.
Yeah, probably CompUSA because I was in Hawaii at the time. So we ended up going there, picking it up. I went to I went back home and I ended up having to, because I lived in the barracks, I had to get a second phone line so that my roommate could still use the phone and I could play Ultima Online. But that's not the only game that came out. It's just probably for me the most impactful game. The other games that came out that year, Final Fantasy VII, Star Wars X-Wing versus TIE Fighter. I absolutely love that game. That game, I remember playing TIE Fighter like a million times, but X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was my favorite in that game. And then I'm going to say a game, and 99% of our audience is going to be like, I don't know what game that is, and that's Blast Corps. Have either of you guys played Blast Corps?
I have, yeah.
Okay, Russ has not played Blast Corps. Russ,
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you what this game is, and you're going to think this is stupid, but it's awesome, and you need to try it out.
All right.
This is kind of like when Carrie introduced us to that fishing Pokemon game racing Pokemon game, Pokemon. Twin whatever, which I can never get to run on my Retroid Pocket. So Blast Corps, there is a run. This is so stupid. There is a runaway semi, like a semi, an 18-wheeler. There's a runaway semi with a nuclear weapon on it. It cannot be stopped. And so your job, in order to stop this from blowing up and killing everybody, is to drive a car around the city and smash into the buildings to clear a path for this semi truck to drive through, because it can't be turned and it just goes straight. It's such a stupid concept, but it's so fun and replayable. And just fantastic. And then speaking of replayable, the original Diablo, 1997. Like that's just such a fantastic lineup. So I know that my list is short compared to your guys' list. So maybe 1997 doesn't hold up, but for me, I absolutely love that year. Carrie, on my list, what jumps out at you?
Okay, so I have a few things that I need to talk about here. So Ultima Online, I was huge in the MMOs at the time as well. I actually had played a lot of people that might not know of it. So this is like Meridian 59.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a game that Sierra came out with called The Realm, which was, imagine King's Quest or Sierra's adventure games, but as an MMO with RPG elements and stuff. And I was hooked on that game pretty bad. But that game got me playing other stuff. 97. Is 97 when EverQuest beta was out as well?
I don't think so, because EverQuest came out I remember it was about to come out in 99 because I was getting out of the army, and like my friend and I he was in Hawaii and I was in New York after I got out of the army, and we were playing that together. So I think that was 99. In fact, that's why they call it Project 99 for the like the emulator.
So I played Ultima Online. I bought it and I played it, and then got grief killed almost immediately.
Sorry.
I bounced off that game so hard just because, like, I think I stepped out of town and died. I don't recall what happened exactly, like how rapid my death was. But I bounced off of Ultima Online, but I still liked the idea of it a lot. So MMOs are pretty big on my list. Out of this list, that you have here, the games that came out in here, I would probably say that it is Diablo 1 that I played the most out of that list. That game, even when it was brand new, there's still some stuff in it, but then that was a really good game.
What about you, Russ? What's in the list that you or were you too cool to play video games
I
in
was too cool at the
1997?
time.
Too cool.
Yeah.
This is too cool for
Girls
us.
and punk rock at the time. But Final Fantasy VII, I went back and played that one later on, like 2001. And yeah, I love that. I actually went back and played all three of 7, 8, and 9. And 7 was the one that really, even though it had the worst graphics, like it was just like the one that really kind of captured me the most. I thought 9 was probably the better game just because it felt more balanced to me. But 7 just had like so many neat little surprises in it. And so I really appreciated that game. And it's the only one out of all those I've really played. So
Oh, that's
Symphony of
right.
the Night came out.
Last week we found out that he'd never played Diablo. So
yeah.
so there you go.
Wait a
You
minute,
said Symphony of the Night came out in 97 too?
Yeah, hold on. Wait.
What did?
That's a game I really loved. Castlevania Symphony of the Night on the PS1.
Oh,
That I
was-
played
game
later,
was-
but on Xbox Live Arcade. And that was like, actually, I played that in 2007 when I got my Xbox. But yeah, I love
Nice.
that game too.
dude, GoldenEye came out in '97. I played the hell out of GoldenEye.
oh, did it?
In
Okay,
97.
I guess I gave up pretty quick looking for games. GoldenEye, although I never really
Easily.
played GoldenEye.
Oh, I played GoldenEye a ton with my friends. I played the hell out of GoldenEye. Like I played so much GoldenEye that when Halo came out, we were like, "Oh, this is like GoldenEye," like the multiplayer part of it. Like we're like, "Oh, that GoldenEye set the foundation for split screen FPS for almost everybody, I would say." So yeah, that would be my pick. Yeah, '97 is still a pretty hot year as well.
That's awesome. Well, it just goes to show that every year has some really fantastic games. Now, are any of these years better or worse than 2023? I mean, that's up to you guys who are watching or listening to us to judge. So let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Now, a second ago, I said that Russ has never played a Diablo game. Russ, I put the wrong Diablo in the show notes. It's not Diablo 3 for crying out loud. Did you finally play a Diablo game, or were you too busy this week?
I was too busy. I read a lot about, just other people's experiences with it. It sounds really interesting. Like, is this a game that like part of me doesn't want to touch it because I will lose myself in it, but also like, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's got enough elements to it too that seem a little bit more introductory and entry level. Like I feel like I can jump in. Like I know the hardcore guys can do their thing as well, but I feel like I could do it as well. So yeah, I'm thinking PS5 for it actually.
I will say that it has scaling leveling. So basically, if Russ makes a character and his character is level 4 or whatever, and I'm trucking along on my level 20 character, whatever, the game scales the difficulty based on each person. So we could still be able to play together, even if you're not playing as often as me, which is always a huge thing in these kind of games because I can't I remember every time my son wanted to play World of Warcraft with me, I'd be like, okay, I'll make a new character. And he was a little kid at the time. So he would make a new character and he would play it for an hour and get bored and be like, I want to play a different character. So then I would have to delete the character that I just made to play with him, make a new character. And then we would level for an hour and then we would do the whole process over again where he just would have a stack of level 5 characters on his character sheet. So I love when people don't have to be the same level of invested, because of the three of us, Carrie is clearly the most invested in Diablo 4 right now. What level's your hardcore character?
32 Necromancer at the moment. I would be higher, except 3 of my guys died, and in hardcore mode, when you die once, it's game over, so you have to start over.
Yeah. I am
How
going to
does that
make a
feel?
hardcore character. Go ahead, Russ.
I was gonna ask, how does it feel when your character dies? Like, because you're losing them,
So-
right?
Well, I mean, I had died early on only because I bumped the difficulty up to its highest, which is tier 2 when you can first start off. And I was like, no, this is pretty fine because I went through the beta on that and I didn't die once. And it seems like they retuned a bunch since then because my everything in there I feel weaker and everything's a lot stronger. In tier 2, I was making my way around. I was like, okay, I'm doing fine. And then I went against a boss and I got like one shot the first time, like literally one hit,
my
and I was
gosh.
dead. And I was just like, well, all right. And then the second time, I got hit and I got stun locked, and it was like 80% of my health went away. And I'm just hammering the pot button. I'm like hammering it, hammering space, and so spaces you can dash and pot. That's all I'm doing, just brrr, and I just got hit again before I could wake up out of that stun. And I was like, well, that wasn't very fair. So then I played a sorcerer and I died even earlier. And I was like, okay, screw this. Go into easier difficulty, back to necromancer, and now I'm 32. I've had some close calls, but yeah, hardcore mode is it really gets the blood pumping. Once you see your health like start to deplete, you're like, oh no, run away.
Yeah, I saw a clip on Twitter of Shroud. I guess he was playing with his friends, and his character got feared into an explosion, and they were playing on hardcore, and he's like, "Oh, I died," and they were all like, "Wait, really, really?" So like, yeah, like it's over when your character dies. It's over, and some people might be like, I can't lose that," but for me, like I didn't even customize my character in Diablo. I just made a random character and a random name because I don't care, because the characters are in my opinion disposable. It's not like in an MMO. I mean, this one is more MMO like than the others, but it's not like in an MMO where like this is your character, because the builds are always constantly changing so much. And so like next month the flavor of the week might be, you know, a bear druid or whatever, and so you'll switch over and you'll play a new character, and then, you know, in a couple months they'll be like, hey, everybody's playing the new the bow thief, and so everybody switches again. So I'm okay with hardcore, but I'm also going to make non-hardcore characters as well, especially for story stuff, because I don't want to have to do the story stuff over and over and over again.
That's the one thing that I wish hopefully I can skip after I beat the game, because like going through like the initial part of it, like yes, go, I understand, please just let me continue, stop speaking to me, just give me the quest thing, give me the marker, I will go there, let me accelerate past this. That But now I'm in a point where I'm finally past that, so I can finally get into like act 2. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, but I have to, like, playing hardcore, it is fun with the whole build that you can do things, because I have been building my character to such a degree that I'm very, very resilient. So most of my stuff is like my skeletons are there to taunt for me, and I have a lot of stuff to fortify health, and I have a lot of things to like keep me alive at all costs. I won't do a bunch of damage, but I can stay alive really, really well. So it's been a lot of fun, kind of like gearing my build myself in that degree.
That's awesome. So let's move on to the other huge game that came out this week. I don't know if either of you guys had a chance to play Street Fighter 6.
No.
I own it, but I haven't played it. I want to play with a buddy, but I installed it on my Steam Deck and then just played more Diablo 4.
How does that run on the Steam Deck? It runs well.
It depends, because there's multiple modes. So if you ask me, the person who's really only interested in, like, you know, Ken versus Ryu, like that kind of gameplay, that's the main mode. I can't remember what they call it, but that mode, 60 frames per second, no problem.
Wow.
Then they have the alternate mode where it's like open world stuff. That runs like garbage on the Steam Deck. It runs really, really bad. So I can't recommend it. I hate to say I can't recommend it for the Steam Deck, because that's the only way that I've been playing it is on the Steam Deck. And it runs really well if you only care about the main mode. But I guess for like a lot of people are saying the other modes are fire. They're really, really good. And it has so much for you to do. And it's just not a good experience on the Steam Deck to play it that way. So I'm going to say I wouldn't recommend it for the Steam Deck. I would love to hear how it runs on the ROG Ally, which I guess I'll find out next week when mine gets here. And so, hey, look for a video on that, everybody. I'll do a little comparison. But I think the game's fantastic. And I was like, last night, I was going to play Diablo 4 on my Steam Deck while I was waiting for my wife to come to bed. And like, I couldn't connect to the servers or something. Like there was some kind of error that I kept running into. So I said, screw it. And I closed it down and I loaded up Street Fighter 6 and I played like 4 or 5 matches. But you get it. Like I'm playing ranked matches, and you get into ranked matches almost instantaneously every single time. I go up against somebody, they let you request a rematch like 3 times. So, you know, I play against Russ and I beat Russ, and then we can request rematch or somebody can leave. And then Russ beats me, and then we can request rematch. And then, you know, either one of us wins or the other one does, and we can't request it after that one. But it's awesome. And I also really like that at the beginning of the fight, it's like, hey, here's Bill. He's playing as Ryu, and it says this is his chance to rank up because I'm playing ranked.
Oh,
And
it
I
shows you the
love that it
stakes.
tells you that. It's awesome. It's a really good game. It's gorgeous, and the controls are fantastic. So pick it up if you guys haven't yet.
Yeah, I am thinking about the ROG Ally for that one because, you know, I have that external GPU, the XG Mobile, and so it'd be neat to have handheld mode when I want to do it on the go, but then also, you know, the full screen experience with the external GPU would be pretty awesome too. I've been thinking about that with Diablo as well. You know, I'm just not sure if I want to enable myself to have a mobile version of that game if it's an addicting gameplay loop, because that's going to kill my productivity. So that's why I like having it on the PS5, where I have to deliberately go into the living room to play it, you know.
That's fair. Daniel Boaventura in chat says, how is the ROG Ally with the external GPU working, Russ?
Yeah, so long story with that. You know, I tested both the 3080 and the 6850 versions, and I ended up deciding to get the 6850 mostly because it was cheaper. It was like $800 after they lowered the price and all that. So I ended up picking that up, and then Asus ended up sending me a 3080. So I ended up returning that one because free is always better than $800. And so now I'm using the 3080 one. It's not as performant as I'm hoping. You know, with the 6850, that one seemed to do a little bit better. I have been keeping the drivers updated, and that does help a little bit, but all the same, it's still a night and day difference when it's plugged in versus not. And so that's been a really nice experience. And all the software issues that I had initially have all been fixed. So I'm going to work. My next video this weekend will be an ROG Ally 1 month later update video, and I'll talk about all that kind of stuff.
You probably got one of those cooking too, right, Carrie?
So right now, Asus did not send me an XG mobile. So I do use a handheld with a GPU, but I'm actually talking with you guys on it right now. So I'm on the WinMax 2, and I use Oculink to a full desktop 4090 that I use as my main desktop replacement right now, and it's the best thing ever.
Yeah,
I just
that's amazing.
I play down here, and then I played Diablo 4 on my WinMax 2 upstairs. Just lay down on my couch, just put the WinMax 2 on my chest, and just kind of just played away. Had a good time.
When you're at your PC, Carrie, are you playing Diablo with a mouse and keyboard, or are you using controller the whole time?
So I've been playing both. On my desktop, I play mouse and keyboard only because that just feels right. But when I'm playing on the WinMax 2 as in a handheld, I'm playing with the controls, and it's very intuitive. They did a really good job. There are some things that, like the build of my character, works better on mouse and keyboard. Funnily enough, like there's a thing, a buff that I have on a legendary item I have that if I am standing still every second, I my damage increases by 15% up to a max of 30%. But I have to stand still, and on keyboard, I can just hold Shift to not move, and I can like go in a circle but not move anywhere. But on a controller, I don't see any way. Like I can use the right analog stick to like kind of move around me, but I can't plant myself. There's no button to plant myself because there's not really needed a button to plant yourself with a controller. So what happens is like periodically my little counter, my buff, just gets reset for no reason, even though I didn't move. So that's kind of weird. But in both cases, uh, I think like the controller is a little bit easier as an action RPG game that it is, especially with the dash element that they have in there. And I find like also they really minimized how many actions you can take in Diablo 4. So everything fits on a controller as opposed to needing a keyboard or mouse. I would probably say that I would almost prefer the controller, even though I am a keyboard mouse
Wow.
person that would like from a Diablo standpoint, it's how I always like playing it. I would say that I probably prefer on controller altogether just because of how streamlined it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that ever since Diablo 3. When Diablo 3 came out on console and I played it with a controller, I was like, whoa, Blizzard. I doubted that they could do it, and they did it. They did a really good job with the controller. And I think that they improved it because in Diablo 3, you would dodge with the thumbstick on controller. So you would just flick the thumbstick and the character would dodge in that direction. And they moved that just to the B button instead. But like, I mean, look, we got Zelda, which we're going to have a special episode sometime in the near future where we will talk about like spoiler everything. I'm like 3 out of 4 dungeons, and I
That's
got
where I'm
the
at.
Master
Yeah.
Sword and stuff, and I'm loving the game, but I really want to be done so I can play Diablo, because I really, really want to play Diablo. Carrie and I were talking right before the show that when Breath of the Wild came out, there was nothing else awesome to play. Like, we were looking at the list, there was nothing else awesome to play for like 2 months when Breath of the Wild came out. Tears of the Kingdom comes out, and hot on its heels is Diablo, and hot on that heels is Street Fighter 6, and then we got friggin' Final Fantasy 16 coming right around the corner. It's just a
packed.
crazy jam-packed couple of months. All right.
2023 is a pretty good year for gaming.
It is a pretty good year for gaming. Absolutely. So, we talked about our favorite years for gaming. We talked about the games that we've been playing. Let's move on and talk about the news. We will come back to Diablo at the end of this because there's some news there that goes with that. But let's talk about the Capcom showcase, because this was actually just announced today. It's on June 13th at 3 p.m., which is, I believe, the day after. Is that the day after the Xbox One, if I'm remembering correctly?
It is. Well,
yeah.
The Xbox One is the 11th on a Sunday.
11th.
I thought the 12th was Capcom on a Monday.
It is. You're right. I'm wrong about the date. When I moused over, if you guys look at the show notes, well, Carrie's really tall. For the audio listeners, Carrie just got very, very tall. Let me fix that for him. I don't know what happened, but if you mouse over it in the show notes, it says June 11th. So that's really weird. But it's June 12th at 3 p.m. Pacific. So, you can do the math and figure out when that is for you. I am very hyped for this. Capcom has been putting out fantastic game after fantastic game. Resident Evil 4 Remake, awesome. Street Fighter 6, awesome. We just got news that Resident Evil 4 Remake is getting a VR mode. It's been a while since we had, like, Monster Hunter Sunbreak came out last year. Monster Hunter Rise came out, I think, 2 years ago. So it might be time for a new Monster Hunter something. And I adore the Monster Hunter games. So we just got Street Fighter. We're probably not going to see new stuff from Street Fighter unless it's like Battle Pass nonsense or whatever. What do you guys have for predictions for the Capcom showcase? Anything in particular? Russ, I'll let you start.
So I don't have any predictions because I don't follow the company well enough, but I'll tell you what I'd like to see. And I would like to see a Resident Evil 1 remake, because I'm a completionist at heart, right? I have not played 2 or 3 remake. I've played 4 because I kind of jumped into that one. And even then I didn't have as great of a time with the story when I first played it on the GameCube, because I'm like, who's Ava? Who's Leon? Like, I didn't know who any of these people were. And it just kind of pulled me out of the element. I like to follow a story. And so I never played the first 3 because of the tank controls. It was just so weird to me, And so I would love to see a Final Fantasy or a Resident Evil 1 remake, because then I would probably go through and do 2 and 3 after that.
So Dynamonic, sorry if I butchered your name in chat, asked a really interesting question. They said they want a they didn't ask a question. They said, I want a Resident Evil Classics collection. Russ, would you prefer a Classics collection? Probably not, with the tank controls and the old school stuff all on like one disc or in one package, I guess. Or would you prefer full on remakes?
I would rather. It all comes down to the controls. I don't mind playing something that's like an older generation feel. I bought the Resident Evil 1 remake on the GameCube when it came out. Like, I was like, okay, now's my final. Like, I'm finally ready. And then they put tank controls on the GameCube version, and so it's never really resonated with me. And so I would. The controls mean everything to me. If they're going to do a classic collection and they update those controls, totally would play them.
Oh man, if they put a classic collection and updated the controls, people would riot. Like, people would be mad about that. I think people would be okay with a new, with a remake of Resident Evil 1, and people would be okay with a classics collection, but a classics collection with updated controls, well, I think that would split the audience right down the middle, and half of them would be torches and pitchforks, and the other half would be torches and pitchforks for a different reason. Carrie, Capcom, are you a Capcom fan, and what are you hoping to see from the Capcom showcase next week?
Capcom Capcom is probably my favorite Japanese publisher by a metric mile. Like it's so far ahead compared to the other publishers that are there. They consistently hit above their framework, their weight class, the MT framework that they made. Their engine during the Xbox 360 era was just a masterclass in like that whole era of different engines that were coming out at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
MT Framework was just fantastic with what they were doing compared to the other stuff that was out. So it was just a breath of fresh air. It ran really well and did things excellent. For me, the type of stuff that I would like to see from Capcom, there is a part of me, and I'm not the biggest fan of it. I was never a big fan of it. However, there is a guy named Jaw Muncher, and he's been around for a while, like back on the GAF days, and now he's on Resetera. He is a gigantic Dino Crisis fan, and I am
Mm.
rooting for this dude for Capcom to make a Dino Crisis sequel because I just want to just like yeah, dude, finally, it's been years for you because dude consistently is just constantly like just talking about Dino Crisis, and then they came out with like what was it, Exoprimal, that game that is like kind of MMO like
Right.
with dinosaurs in it. And when they first showed it, I was like, oh, it's Dino Crisis, and then it wasn't, and I was like, oh. So yeah, there's a part of me that just wants that for him. I would love, like, I just want to have the internet, just this gaming community, just celebrate for Joe Muncher. Um, yeah, so that's pretty. I mean, other than that, I don't know what they did with Deep Down. I'd like Deep Down to just be like, "Hey, surprise, PS5, here you go." That would be pretty great because that was showed off during the PS4 reveal in like 2012 or something, or
Mm.
2013. But yeah, other than that, Dragon's Dogma 2, I would like to see a bit more of. Um, well, yeah, that's it. But by and far, like I'm glad that they're having something, but I don't think, for me, I don't feel like there's going to be any big surprises. So it's just kind of more of what we already know.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna make this is not a prediction. This is just straight up what I would love to see is a completely dead franchise brought back to life, and that would be
Mm.
Power Stone. I don't know if you guys ever played Power Stone, but I
Oh, yeah.
had that game. Was it on my Saturn or my Dreamcast? I can never remember.
Dreamcast,
Dreamcast. Okay. Yeah, I had that game on my Dreamcast, and it was just such a fun fighting game. And there's no fighting games out there that are like Power Stone. And I think I had, and I even loved when you turned it on. I went Power Stone, like that intro. It was just so good. So I would really like to see Power Stone. I don't see that happening in a million years. But that's the Capcom showcase. Anybody have anything else that they want to say about Capcom real quick?
I am torn about, I have some like fuzzy feelings about like, because Dead Rising was them, right? And then Lost Planet. Like I liked all those on the 360. I'm
So
not
good.
sure if they need an update,
Yeah, that's fair. Just because something was awesome doesn't mean it has to come back. What were you
Right.
about to say, Carrie?
No, just if you liked Power Stone, there was an indie team that made a spiritual successor to Power Stone. It's on Steam. It's called The Last Fight, and it's very Power Stone-y like.
Okay, you've got my attention. The Last Fight, it's called?
I believe so. Yeah, it's been out for years at this point now. But yeah, I saw it at PAX East one day, and I was like, "Oh, this is just like Power Stone." They're like, "Yes," like cool.
That's
It
awesome.
it it's yeah. You really need a bunch of people to play to enjoy it. Much like how Power Stone was. Like the more people you had, the better the game experience was. And playing by yourself isn't ideal.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go back in time one day to the day before and talk about the Xbox event, which is going to be happening on the 11th. This one is happening, and let me bring that up on the screen. This is happening at 11 or on the June 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So, convert your time things over. And I guess that there are like this is something that comes from Aaron Greenberg. He says none of our first party games in the show are full CG trailers. This is kind of a nudge or a finger in the chest of over with Sony because we had a lot of stuff that was just fully CG trailers, which I always complain about, and I really should have called Sony out on it a little bit more last time. But they said none of our games are in the show are full CG trailers. Everything is either in-game footage, in-engine footage, or in-game footage with some cinematics. Each of our trailers will be labeled so it is hopefully clear for our fans. That's awesome. What do you guys think about that? Do you do you think that that makes a big difference? Russ is nodding.
I like the idea of like I know what I'm gonna get out of it. You know, I don't like watching a fancy movie sometimes. You know, and it's just never, the quality is never that great anyway. And so yeah, I like the idea of being able to see something and be like, oh, I'm gonna be able to play that at some point. Like that's kind of fun to me. But again, I'm a little hesitant because it says all of our first party games. Like how many of those are there? You know, and so it's maybe very specially chosen wording there.
Well, I mean, I don't know how long it or how many of the games are going to be first party games, but it does say the Xbox Game Showcase and Starfield Direct. So it's actually two
Right.
events, I guess, are going to be running for 2 hours. And they said they can confirm there will be no movie or TV trailers in our game show. Again, another snide comment pointed at Sony because we saw the Gran Turismo. I can't believe
Right.
anybody cares about that movie. I mean, that's stupid. I shouldn't have said that. I don't care about that movie. You know what bugs me about that movie is the stupid tagline "From Gamer to Racer." That's like, this movie might be awesome, and I would love to give it a chance, but the tagline just drives me crazy. It tells me that you're just trying to reduce people down to like this stupid
Tags.
little, like, you like video games, right? You know, and that drives me crazy. So like that's the only problem I have with that game, because I like the actors. The actors in that movie look fantastic. Um,
Hmm.
and the action looks great. So I'm being a jerk by picking on them about it. But Xbox is picking on them too. All right. So there you have it. Carrie, you think 2 hours? Is that too long? Like, I don't know if I have that kind of attention span.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Sunday is a weird day to have it. I guess that's what it always kind of did around E3 time, is like Sunday and stuff, but I don't remember it. I always remember it being like a weekday. Sunday, I think, is a better day just because of generally speaking, you got like time. You're not really doing much at all. So yeah, I think I'm excited for it. But I do have an Xbox bias. I like Team Xbox. I've been a fan of Xbox since the original with Halo and everything that they were doing, and they killed it in the 360 generation and then dropped the ball on real hard at 2013 with the Xbone. Like between Phil Harrison and Don Matrick just sabotaging Xbox collectively,
Hmm.
it was just devastating to me to see what those guys did. So yeah, I feel positive about this particular show only because Sony didn't have they had a good show. The games that they showed at the Sony conference were good. It did not distill any particular reason why you should own a PS5. And the only reason I bring that up is that because there have been knives drawn in the console war space of ever since Microsoft has made the argument that Xbox games are going to come out on PC day one. People are like, well, why would you ever own an Xbox then? And now that's happening to PS5. And we're like, well, I'm still going to get it because it's like, timed exclusive. And I'm like, okay, just all right, sure, whatever, that's fine. But yeah, so it's they did not have a solid conference, and this is Microsoft's chance to gain at least a footing to just be in a better position, because right now they're in a very poor position overall. Like when you talk about like gaming as a whole in terms of the console space, and it's not for any reason, but I can see why people just get a Switch and a PS5 and they would not get an Xbox, because a lot of things do come on a PC. The main reason I have an Xbox is for backwards compatibility and just how nice that is. That's a big reason, and I would argue that a lot of reasons that people buy a PS5 is to play PS4 games on it. So it's probably the same thing. But yeah, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Starfield. I like that there's like the CG comment, because there's a lot of stuff that they're going to be showing off Fable there. I don't know if you saw the Xbox tweet
Like a
where
glitter.
some, oh my god, I felt so bad for that person. I was like, you put that much glitter all over your house? That's never going to come out. What kind of cleaning crew is Microsoft? I hope Microsoft is paying for that cleaning crew, because that's going to need like glitter sticks to everything.
Hmm.
And they just like put it on their carpet, on their steps, all the way leading up. And I'm just like, oh my, this is awful. Why did you do this? Um, yeah. So anyway, I'm excited for Fable. I do like Fable. I like Fable 1. Fable 2 is okay. And Fable 3, I wasn't a big fan of. I still like Fable 1, and this is still the time where Peter Molyneux still had his like presence because
Yeah.
of his studio at the time was still making really good games, and so Peter Molyneux still had that status of where he was. For what it's worth, I really enjoyed Fable, even though it was really compartmentalized. But the music, the story, and how they did everything was really good. Especially at the time, I thought it was excellent. So I have high hopes for Fable as it is, and I hope that with Playgrounds doing it, I have very high hopes for it.
I will say, like, a lot of people made that comment, and we probably mentioned this on the show last week. The PlayStation Showcase didn't it didn't make a good presentation for why it was a good showcase for the games, but not a good showcase for PlayStation. And I was thinking about that after that, and I felt like, you know what, I don't really like that argument, because as somebody who owns a PlayStation, I still can play those games, and
Yeah.
I can also see why somebody might say that didn't make me want to get a PlayStation. And I do understand that thought process, but for somebody who already has a PS5, I was like, that was a friggin' banger of a show. That was really, really good. And I was really happy about it. And everybody who doesn't have a PlayStation should also be happy about that show, because they can play those games too. But we got the Xbox thing coming next week. Then we've got the Capcom the day after. We're eating good right now with E3. I mean, I know it's not E3, but then Summer Games Fest is coming right around the corner. Let's lightning round the rest of this stuff, because we went really, really long on the intro stuff for today. So first off, MetaQuest 3. Meta raised the price of the MetaQuest 2, and then they lowered the price of the MetaQuest 2 so that they could bring the MetaQuest 3 out at $500. I don't think that price is bad for what you're getting. I'm also somebody who has a PSVR 2, and I'm super happy that I ended up picking that up. But the MetaQuest 3 is coming this fall for cheaper than the PSVR 2, and it doesn't require a PlayStation to connect to it. Are either of you guys going to be picking this thing up, or are you guys into VR at all? Russ?
I never really been into it, but we have a Quest 2 at our house. We got it for my father-in-law, and he doesn't like it at all. And I've always meant to go and like try to play retro games on it, and I haven't. I don't know. I'm a little bit interested in this, and it's $3,000 cheaper than the Apple one, so that's pretty awesome.
Somebody did ask earlier in the chat. They said, "Are you guys going to talk about that?" And I didn't. We didn't lean into it because it's not really a gaming necessarily thing. It feels more like it's a computer, and it's fine. It's just I feel like the Apple thing. Obviously, everybody's going to be making fun because it's a ridiculous price. But I think in 10 years, this is going to be commoditized like these things are, and that's going to be fine as they get less stupid looking. Because man, does that thing look stupid? But guess what? You strap a thing to your face, you almost always look stupid until they look like glasses. Until it just looks like a pair of glasses, it's going to look stupid, and people are going to have to be okay looking stupid. I think that this looks cool. I'm probably not going to get it, but only because my computer not very powerful. So I'll just stick with the one that I already have on the PlayStation. Carrie, are you picking that up or no?
I am no at $500. I don't think I'm going to be getting a Quest 3. The main reason that I would be getting it was really just for my son, who does play VR a lot on the Quest 2 via the Oculus's AirLink, which works perfect. So it's one of the few solutions that is a very good wireless VR solution for PC, and it does a very good job. And my son plays a lot of Roblox in VR with it and has a great time. He also plays other VR games and stuff. So I don't know that I'm going to buy a $500 thing just for my son, but if my son asks for it for Christmas, I'll probably get one thing for him for Christmas just because that's a big budget item. So I'll be like, well, that's your Christmas present. And I would get that for him for Christmas if he wanted it.
There you go. I hope you're listening, Carrie's son, because now you can get dad for 500. All right. RoboCop Rogue City. When we first saw this, or when we first saw this announced, I was excited for it. I've seen some people watching this, like talking about this footage and saying that it looks slow and clunky. Have they seen RoboCop movies? Like, RoboCop moves like a tank. He moves really slow and clunky, and he's essentially bulletproof. So people were like, the enemies can't do anything to him. That seems kind of par for the course to me for a RoboCop game. Russ, you interested in RoboCop Rogue City?
So a couple thoughts here. Number one, I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the footage just playing in Twitter, and I was like, this looks Eastern European. Like it felt to me very Metro, very Atomic Heart, just kind of in its styling and just feel and stuff. And I don't mind that. It's just something I observed, but I kind of wish it was third person. Like I want to see RoboCop. I don't want to be RoboCop. I want to see him. You know what I mean? And so I think I would have
Peter
preferred
Weller's
third
lips.
person. Right. Well, I want to see his back, basically,
Yes.
as you're like controlling him. I think like a Resident Evil 4 style, like over the shoulder camera would have just been more immersive to me, even though it's kind of counterintuitive. I think that would have probably been a little bit better.
Not only that, but then you'd be able to see the cool thing where he puts his weapon away in his leg.
Right.
Like we don't get to see that in first person unless he looks down every time.
Yeah.
Carrie, are you a RoboCop fan?
I am a RoboCop fan. Yeah, I don't know anyone that wouldn't be a RoboCop fan. RoboCop 1 was like traumatizing to me a bit as a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a I was a big fan. I mean, like, yeah, watching the whole thing, that was like a really cool movie, and just the whole everything about it. Yeah, so I played like the Nintendo RoboCop game and didn't like it at all. So yeah, seeing this, I'm actually excited, especially how it like zooms in and does the whole thing that RoboCop's eyes do when it zooms in on someone. I just hope it would be baller if they could reuse Peter Weller's voice for a lot of stuff. That's the thing that I kind of really need. Just like, dead or alive, you're coming with me. I want to just say that constantly and just have them only come dead.
Yeah. I want a button. I want a button that says dead or alive, you're coming with me. Like, I just want a button that I can just mash over and over, like in Stray, where you hit the meow button.
It's like that the Stallone movie Cobra, where they had to put in drop it just like off screen, just because it would look like Cobra's shooting the guy in cold blood. So it's like drop it. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. I do want to just say the line and just murder everybody in front of me. No one's coming alive. Only dead.
No one's coming alive. All right. I did say at the beginning of the show, or like halfway through the show, that we were going to talk about Blizzard's post-launch plan for Diablo 4. I don't think we have time for it in this episode. They have 2 expansions cooking. That's really all that I'm going to say about it. Carrie, are you hyped for the 2 expansions?
At the moment, no, not really. I'm just kind of enjoying going through and just playing and getting items right now. So it depends on the itemization and where that's going and how they do like leveling up and all the other stuff. That's the part that's going to really do it for me. Is the action right now is really good. So as long as there's a clear path for enjoying that further, that's the only place for me where I'm looking forward to it right now.
All I'm really hoping for from this, for me, is that in the main game of Diablo 4, we have a cohesive story that's done when you get to the end of the game. It's okay, there you go, that's the end. And they don't have like this ridiculous cliffhanger that's like, all right, come back, tune in next week for the next thing. And I'm like, okay, come on, no, I want to finish the story and then make a new story that tags in, like, oh look, there's another demon that nobody knew about, let's do that. I think that would be better. I worry that and don't spoil it for people in chat who've already finished the game. I really hope that we get a cohesive story and we're done with it, and then something new for the expansions. Russ, you've never played Diablo 4. Are you going to play it this week, or do you not have time?
I think I am. I'm going to install it. I got a lot going on. I just got a bunch of handhelds in the mail just yesterday, so I don't have the time for it, but I think it's time to at least buy it and install it for when it's ready for me, or when I'm ready for it.
All right. Well, hit me up and we'll go into Sanctuary together and kill some dudes, and maybe we'll get feared into an explosion. That's your
no idea what any of that means.
Well, you will. Okay. You will. So that does it for this episode of the NerdNest podcast. If you are watching this over on YouTube, thank you very much. Make sure you click on that like button. It really helps. If you're listening to it and the podcasting app that you use allows you to hit like 5 stars or whatever, please do that. Make sure that you check out Carrie's YouTube channel over at where, Carrie?
I'm the Fox on YouTube.
There you go. The Fox, PHAWX. Oh, you just changed your Twitter name too.
No, still
Oh,
me.
because
Just I secured both, but I don't use my handle on Twitter.
Okay. I tweeted the wrong person then. Russ, tell everybody where they can find your stuff, man.
So I'm at Retro Game Corps. Corps as in Marine Corps, so CORPS.
That's right. Oh, and Jasper, thank you for reminding me. Carrie, congratulations. You're going to be at LTX. Yeah. When is that happening, man?
That's July 28th that I go there. And the 29th and the 30th is when the conference is happening. Yeah, that was a surprise to me. Linus Media Group reached out to me and said, "Hey, we want to invite you." And I said, "That's amazing." So I said yes, and I'm going.
That's awesome. Very congratulations, man, and congratulations to Russ on 325. You guys are awesome. Everybody in chat, you guys are fantastic. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us live here at the NerdNest podcast. We will see you guys next time. Until then, stay rad, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.